Men don't care if society collapses.
To cut my girl off because I just moved her into my place and then she's telling me she wants to go 50-50. You were broke. I moved you into my place and you're asking me to go 50-50. I don't tolerate disrespect. I don't pay bills. I'm in my soft guy era.
If a woman is over 30 years old and she is not married, she will be called 剩女,剩女,剩女, which means leftover woman.
Men don't care if society collapses, guys. Why is it that men no longer care if society collapses, and what are the implications for society? How is it going to affect all of us as more men walk away from society and allow society to crumble around it? We'll figure this out. So stay until the end of the video to find out why society is going to face serious hardships as a result of men who no longer care if society collapses. And now let's go ahead and jump right into the first video.
There was a study done in the 90s, and what they found out, I think, still holds true today. So what they did is they took a group of men and they took a group of women and they categorized these men. So it was like high status, t-shirt, McDonald's. Same thing with the women. High status, t-shirt, McDonald's. And then they asked, the men, okay, would you go to coffee with this person, go on a date, marry? And in all three categories, the guy didn't care. He's like, yes, sure, whatever. With women, it was a whole different story. Women went to the high status man for the majority of them. So that was for coffee, date, marriage. My takeaway on this is just goes along with the trends I've been seeing. So we are in this Kardashian culture and have been for, 10 years. I don't know how long they've been on. But this idea of perfection has just been kind of unseen before. I mean, before we had magazines, we knew they were kind of airbrushed, but what we see now, women are doing eyebrows, microblading, dermaplaning, eyelash extensions, hair extensions, lip fillers, cheek fillers, breast implants, butt implants, fat transfer, taking ribs out. I mean, literally women are taking their ribs out. So I think just the pressure and the unattainable beauty that they put on themselves, they're also putting that sort of unattainable image and desire on a guy as well. And that's why these guys are backing out, because guys know, that's crazy. We can't do all that. Some can. I mean, it's the small minority can.
Have 7 million men ages 25 to 54 not working or looking for work. 7 million. You can't build a civilization, a culture, a nation, an economy on men who are not activated and working and producing. What it means is you have far more consumers than producers. And then you have a whole generation of young men that are going to vote to increase the taxes on men who are working to reallocate wealth, which is stealing. And the result is, at some point, you run out of other people's money. That's why we now have record national debt. And now credit card debt in America has, for the first time, reached over $1 trillion.
Yeah.
And being taken for granted.
But there's more. According to one economist, some non-working men face a skills mismatch. A third have criminal records, making them ineligible for many jobs and making employers hesitant to hire them. And many rely on safety nets, such as disability. So you may wonder, what are these guys doing instead of work? Well, kind of what you might expect. Spending nearly 7 hours each weekday on average relaxing, playing games, and watching TV.
So how is it, from where you're sitting, from your understanding, that people can do nothing all day and still have enough money for a bag of chips?
Oh, well, it's almost as though some entity is paying them. It's almost as if somebody is not letting them fail.
Here's the thing. These guys are absolutely wrong. They're just trying to shame men. They're using shame, insults, and guilt because they need to be right. The vast majority of men are doing day trading, or they're working remotely, or they're doing gig economy work, or they're making just enough to survive and thrive and no more. Or they're filing for disability, which is something that women have been doing for ages. But now when men are getting hip to it, and they're like, okay, yeah, I can do that too. Basically, men are just doing what women have been doing forever. And they're walking away from society. They're walking away from relationships. And they're saying that, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm not going to play this game anymore. Okay? I'm just going to focus on myself. I'm not going to have children. Okay. And a man without a wife and kids is a man who has a lot of disposable income, because, men have to make enough money for the woman's share and the kids' share. All right. Think about how hard a man has to work. But if a man doesn't have to pay for all of these people, if he doesn't have to feed all of these people, all of a sudden he has all of this food for himself. All of a sudden he has all of this disposable income for himself. All of a sudden he doesn't have to buy new clothes to even go to work. All right. Because he's working a few hours or he's working from home. You see, guys, men are waking up and realizing no wife, no kids means I get to live a comfortable life. I don't have to worry about any of these things. And if I want physical intimacy, I can use my hand, get that done within a minute, or I can become a passport king, go overseas when I want to, even have a place overseas, and just go chill over there with women who appreciate me and celebrate me. Someone made this comment on one of the videos where I talked about the subject, this or that Quizler, and they said eventually there will be a 2-tier tax system where women are taxed at 20% and men are taxed at 50%, aka the gradual reintroduction of SLAVERY. Now, this is a very impressive comment. I've said this before in another video that it's intriguing because society cannot make men work harder than a man will make himself work. The reason why men work so hard to build the Western society is because of the social contract that was made. Men were told, the average man was told, if you work hard, and you build this country, every man can have a wife, every man can have the American dream. But that was robbed from men. Men have no reason to push themselves anymore. The wages have gone down ever since women entered into the workforce. Now, instead of paying men what they're worth, they're now like, well, we have twice as many employees, so we're going to pay you both less, and we're going to keep all of the excess money for ourselves. And you know what we'll do with that? We'll loan it out to you and then charge you interest for that money. That's why you end up with banks like GE Capital. GE Capital stands for General Electric. All of the excess money that they were making, they turned around, opened up a bank, and started loaning it out and collecting interest on it. That's what a lot of these companies do. I learned that in business school. Guys, men have been screwed so hard. I've said this plenty of times that if a man does not have love for country or for family, then he will fight for neither. Saying that you're going to take men and force them to go and serve in the military, okay, and what, you're going to brainwash them and use fear to control them, giving them scraps. If a man's soul is broken, you don't want him out on a battlefield. There's something they said that soldiers have said. You could always tell the men who were not going to make it. It's not just in the battlefield during the hardest of times, like people who were in certain types of, when they were forcibly held in certain places, and men who survived, they said you could always tell the men who wouldn't make it, because once they stopped talking about family and the future, you knew they weren't going to survive, and they would be gone soon. You take a bunch of men who have no love for family, no love for country, and you force them into the military and say you're going to fight or else we're going to punish you. Those men are not going to make it. They're not going to fight for survival, because they're going to look and say, I have the enemy behind me and the enemy in front of me. I'm screwed either way. I don't even want to go home. Guys, do you know how many men over the last 20 or 30 years volunteered for war? This is something that men do. There are a lot of men who volunteer for war, volunteer to go to war and serve multiple tours. And then sometimes they're even told no because they get injured. And they're like, I want to go back. And they're like, we can't send you back. Because they would rather go overseas and stay overseas and spend the entirety of their lives overseas than to come back to Western society. There are men like that. But the typical man, if you try to send them overseas forcibly and say, we're going to punish you if you don't fight your hardest, these men are just going to give up. Their souls are going to be broken. You're going to see they're more likely to get injured. And you cannot win wars like that. You cannot have a strong country without strong men. You cannot have a strong country with demoralized men. Okay? And then Sims will constantly say that men need to man up, while at the same time, they're being torn down. Hence, men just give up. They take their ball, they go home, and they say, we're done. And the more you increase taxes on men, the less that men will work. Men will basically pitch a tent. Or you want to put them in jail, put them in jail. 3 hots and a cot, and they'll be happy for it. And if you start to destroy your men, guys, they did this in like I think it was Malaysia. There's a video I was watching, and basically they treat the men so poorly in Malaysia where they prioritize women. Now, all the women have the highest level of education. They out-earn the men. They're all sharing the same men over there, and there's a massive gender imbalance, so the country is falling apart. And while there's serious health issues facing the men, the country is focused on entirely the healthcare of women, and told men, well, you figure it out for yourself. So the population of men over there continues to decline, and it's now beginning to affect the women. But they still don't care because they can't stop, won't stop. This is how you guys. If you want to destroy a country, destroy the men, and if you want to destroy the men, use the women to destroy the men. So what does this all spell for us? It spells a society that is only going to continue to decline. Men pay 80% of taxes, while women make 80% of all consumer purchases. The more you tax the men, the less the men are going to work. Every time that they've tried using bachelor taxes throughout history, they've all failed. They've been trying that for the last 200 years. Okay? When they tried this crap during the Roman Empire after no-fault divorces and men became miserable and started walking away from society, and they began punishing men, they wouldn't incarcerate them, because if they incarcerate them, then they're going to have to feed them. And if they punish them too much, then these men are going to get sick and start passing away. You see, this is, guys, the more you mistreat men, you treat men so poorly that men start to give up and are miserable, and you try to use brainwashing to tell them, no, you need to love the suffering. It's not suffering. You're privileged. Guys, as our lives are being destroyed, as we're losing everything, as we're being punished for everything, you're being told that you're privileged. You're a villain. Okay? You're a villain, and your counterparts are victims, powerful victims, and you're pathetic villains. All right? And you're being gaslit constantly by agents of the state. Men just basically say, take what you want, I'm done. Some will stand up, others will just lay back and say, I'm done. No one could ever make a man work harder than he will make himself work. I've said this before. Back when we had indentured servitude in Western society in the United States, those people were up at a certain time and they were done at a certain time. Think about it. The average man will work 24-hour shifts, 48-hour shifts. He won't stop working. This is the reason why fathers have the worst hearts, because they never stop working. They never stop giving. And no one cares. When now men are prioritizing themselves, they're realizing that the game has been rigged. And the only thing that women in society will do is use sign language, shame, insults, and guilt, because they need to be right. Men don't care. And men, guys, as men are being arrested for watching YouTube videos, more men will just stop commenting on videos. More men will move to other platforms. More men will just start using VPNs. More men will just stop leaving comments. Men are being arrested for playing video games. Oh, they're monitoring what you're saying in online chats. Okay, so men will stop playing online. There's some idiots who will keep doing it, and eventually they'll get the memo, or it doesn't matter. But vast majority of men will stop playing online. Some men will just stop purchasing new games entirely and start emulating their games. PlayStation 2 classics, all right? Xbox 360 classics. They'll go back to Atari. There's so many guys that would be happy with Super NES, Nintendo, Sega Genesis, hell, even Atari. Some dudes don't play video games at all. They just basically lay around their house all day, relaxing. And we know for a fact that men can be very happy with nothing at all, because we've learned it from the monks. If everything is stripped away from you, these men who learn how to be alone, they start to meditate. And they begin to develop the internal world, and they find inner peace. And instead of looking at the things that they don't have, they look at everything that they do have. No stress, no problems, no one to worry about. So they've given everything up, but they have more than ever before. They still have a place to sleep. They still have clothing on their backs. They still have food to eat. They need nothing else. They will take what little they get If they only have enough food to eat once a day, they will only eat one time a day and reap the health benefits of it. Well-behaved, complicit, compliant men who just stop trying, who just give up entirely. Once this pattern of behavior starts, there's nothing left. Because if these men won't fight for themselves, they won't fight for you. This is what they don't understand. If a man will not stand up for himself and he will not fight for himself, he will not fight for anyone. He will not fight for his country. He will not fight for anyone or anything. If he has no love for country or family, he has no dog in the fight. So what this ultimately means is a chaotic society where we witness a complete decline, higher inflation, falling infrastructure falling apart, men completely avoiding responsibility because men have no authority, so they're no longer going to take responsibility. You can try to force them to take responsibility. It's not going to happen. And the rest of the world is watching. The rest of the world can see how poorly men are treated. And Western society and women in Western society will serve as an example for the rest of the world of what not to do. Don't treat your men like this. Because when your men leave, when your men fall apart, you don't have a country anymore. You have absolutely nothing. You can blame the men all you want. Do you think you're going to run away to another country and rinse and repeat that? Nope. They're not going to allow you into their country. And all the while you're still shaming the men and blaming the men in your own society who did everything. Come on. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the content, consider checking out our newsletter. Subscribe to our newsletter for my personal thoughts, insights, and a free copy of my ebook, The Blueprint for Escaping the Rat Race. You can click the link in the description to get your free copy of the ebook. Guys, what do you think regarding all of this? Men don't care if society collapses. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.